everyone, and welcome to the Vintage Needle Crafter. Today I have a few different things I want to share with you. I'm going to talk about the top I'm wearing and talk about some different types of wool and show you a little bit how I use my drop spindle and the socks that I started that I talked about in my last video, the toe up 2 at a time socks. And the surprise of the week that my husband brought me home. Okay, first off, how's everyone doing? I hope you're not too affected by the heat. Hope you're staying cool and not affected too much by the storms. First up, I wanted to show you what I finished. I finished the Xenia top. This is by Hey Carrie. She's a crocheter on YouTube that has free patterns. This is the Xenia top, and I was running short of the yarn that I began with it, and this is a bamboo cotton. And then in the middle stripe, I just took some of my superwash sock yarn for the center, but I thought it turned out quite nice. I like that little stripe of color in there. It was superwash merino, so it did not shrink any at all. I have worn this several times, and I've already washed it a couple times. So you could find her on YouTube at Hey Carrie. Okay, next I want to talk about some fleece and fiber. This is the Fleece and Fiber Source Book, and I checked this out at our local library. If you're thinking about spinning and you'd like to begin and you don't know where to start, I began my little spinning journey by purchasing a $14 drop spindle on Amazon. And I purchased just some cheap Corriedale to begin practicing on. And that is this. This will come much thicker than this. You'll have a roll, a long 5-foot or 6-foot long roll of this. And this was white, and it was also mixed with some brown. But when it comes, you'll just, pull it apart, and then you'll begin to spin. Now, Corriedale, it's in my book here. I'm sorry for the mower noise. Everyone is busy today. Let's see. Corriedale. Here we are. There's some Corriedale sheep. And it says their fleece can weigh up to 20 pounds. Staple length is 3 to 6 inches, as why that was probably easy to spin. That's why I begun with that. I had heard that Corriedale is fairly easy to spin. And being that I got it from Amazon, I did not need to wash or process the fleece any at all, which I have done, by the way. I have purchased some Romney that I got last summer, and I did go through all the steps of the washing and doing all the things, and it turned out wonderful. It was wonderful yarn. I made socks. I made mittens with that. But anyway, Corriedale's fairly soft. And now, this is what I have on my spindle right now. I'm getting back to wanting to finish the Corriedale because I want to dye it with some autumnal tones. There's that. And I always do the park and draft method, and I hope you can see me. Maybe I'll angle the camera down for you a little bit more. Let's see if that helps. I think so. Okay. What I do, get this started here, and I am a new beginner. I just started spinning last summer. I think it was last August. I just take the yarn and overlap it, and I go a counterclockwise spin. Get some really good twist. Up here you want to pinch. I'm pinching the yarn so it does not twist all the way up. Get a really good spin on this till it stops, and then I hold it just between my legs here. oops, the fan is going, so it's, and I just take it and twist, and this, and I pull out a little more, the twist, a little more, and twist. That gives a nice yarn, as you can see, and that's how all it's done. That's how I do mine. I'm sure as I get better at it and faster, I can stand up and really get it spinning and go a lot faster. But it's fine for me. And I've made some wonderful pieces from it. I've made some nice yarns. This was my first one. And I used food coloring for this. This is some more Corriedale that I spun last fall. And I just used some different colors of food coloring. I had a lot of fun with that. I'm an artist at heart. And I think we all are, aren't we? Those of us that do needle crafting, we're all really artists at heart. And dyeing that was so much fun. Okay, moving on. Also, once I got my feet wet and started to learn that, I wanted to try different breeds. And I found some different wool on Etsy. This one here is Rockbridge Farm. It was on Etsy. This is Black Welsh Mountain. Black Welsh Mountain, I fell in love with it. It's just a deep, dark, black color. I'll show you a picture of the sheep. Isn't he pretty? The Black Welsh Mountain is up to a 5.5 pound fleece normally, and the staple length is 2 to 4 inches, so it's a little bit shorter than Corriedale. And it's dense and firm, not usually long, almost completely free of kemp and any fibers. The nice solid black individual fibers have significant crimp. It was a little more challenging for me to process, but here is, I think in here I have a sample of that I spun. Yes, here it is. And I made a cape with this and some, let's see, I made a cape last fall, and I used Black Welsh Mountain, and I used some by Grey Gotland, a little bit of Corriedale that I dyed with some autumn colors. And let me get that for you and I'll show you. Okay. This, oops, my button came apart. This is the cape that I made last fall. I'm gonna rebutton it. Okay. This was the cape that I made last fall. You can see that when the camera's not quite focusing. There we go. And I just have bands of different colors in here. On the bottom, I have the Black Welsh Mountain. And in here, the little bit of the copper and burnt orange. That's Corriedale that I use some autumn colors. And then in here, I have a little bit of the Grey Gotland going across here. This is very warm and very soft. Too warm for now, but of course. But I used this a lot last winter, especially when I'd go out. I just throw on a hooded jacket and I just put this over the top, and it was very warm. Also, here's some more hand spun items. I made a hat and mitts. This up here was the Romney that I spun. But see, handmade items are so nice. They really are. They last years. To me, they're just heirloom pieces. Okay. Now, this also I purchased on Etsy, and that's where you can get different breeds once you learn. Etsy has a place to go. This is Grey Gotland. He was quite a challenge to spin up because of the curly locks. And your yarn will end up with little curly bits poking out through. That's normal. It's sort of like your Lion Brand homespun that's acrylic. That's kind of wavy and bumpy. Sort of like that it will turn out when it's finished. Yes, this is a wonderful book to teach you about different breeds of wool. Speaking of, this is not wool over here, but something that I done last winter. I still have not got it flattened out. I know. I need to block this. It's curling up on the edges. But it's a little wall hanging I made of a sheep, just out of acrylic yarn, just having some fun. I do not even remember the lady's name that had the instructions for this or the pattern. I'm sorry. I'd like to share that with you. If I remember, and I look it up and I remember, I'll put it in the description box for you. Okay, now for the socks. My last video, I talked about the toe up 2 at a time socks. For those of us that just sort of get frustrated a lot with second sock syndrome, or you'll work on one sock and just forget it, and the other one will just kind of lay there and not get finished. Well, this is the cure-all for that, because you take 2 different balls of yarn and you're working each sock at the same time. Yep, you're working both socks at once, and unwind this here and show you my progress. But here are mine. This is the front. And you can see there's 2 different strands of yarn coming out. That's because you'll be going down one side and around and drop that yarn, and then you'll pick up the other, and that's what you do. And this, I used some of that nylon matrix. This stuff is really stretchy, but I used that held with some of this Superwash Merino that I just got from Hobby Lobby. Not sure what the name of that was either, the yarn. But the matrix was in that surprise bag video that I had a couple videos ago that hubby got from the thrift store. And I found out he only paid $2 for that whole bag. Isn't that something, with all those needles, yarns, and vintage needles in there? $2. So yeah. And that, what I just showed you, was only 2 days progress. So see, you really can make socks quite quickly. And that's just a pattern that I always use. It's just a plain vanilla sock pattern. I just begin at the toe. And another nice thing about this method and the instructions is that when you're beginning the toe, it will be seamless. The way it's woven back and forth when you begin, it's seamless. You won't need to sew up the toe at all, which I really like. I really like that part. I'm planning on coming up in a future video. I would like to do a tutorial for you on that, because the instructions, I had to read them several times and I almost gave up. And now they're not hard, it's just that they're a little bit challenging to begin and understand. So I thought maybe if I make a tutorial for you, that would make it much easier for you to learn that. Okay. Also, I'm going to tell you what hubby brought me home. I was quite surprised, to say the least, but I'm going to show you what he got for me at the thrift store. So here is what hubby picked up at the thrift store. A yarn ball winder. Now, I really didn't have much faith in these, or I really didn't see the need to have one. But after I began using it, and how fast it can wind up a ball of yarn, I was convinced. And I'm just winding my heirloom yarn here. This is the yarn I'm using to make my knitted dress. I don't know if you can see the tag down in there. It says heirloom. I hope I have enough, because you won't be able to find this yarn anymore. Whoop. And I've already wound 2 cakes. And this is the 3rd cake. I call them cakes. Some call them just balls. But it really goes fast. A lot faster than hand winding balls of yarn. So I never would have really bought one myself, but him getting this was really a blessing. And it is the brand called Lacus, and it was I think I paid $5.49 at Goodwill. I'm just giving a little tension because I like mine wound tightly, not so loosely. Not too tight though, not too tight because you'll stretch the yarn. But I just absolutely love it. I'd also in the future like to get, it's in here to show. I don't have it. I don't know why the instructions were in here. But the Umbrella Swift, I would like to get an Umbrella Swift. Probably not this brand, and I'm not sure why that was in there. I asked him, I says, if you ever go back to the thrift store and you see anything like that, would you please think on getting it for me? Because doing your hand spun yarn and wrapping it and then putting it on the Umbrella Swift, it's very handy. And then you could just put it in these cakes. See, it's almost finished already. Yep, that's just about where I want it. So I would just cut it. And the nice thing about this is you just pop it off like so. And it has that center pull, like these here. It's a nice center pull. Oops, I'm sorry. Nice center pull. I like that. Okay. So, that sure was a nice surprise to say the least. It's not something I've always wanted, but it was something in the back of my mind as to, I'm kind of curious about that. It does look easy, but at first I was always, just used to doing things by hand. Well, I think that was all I had to share with you today. Yes. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope your week is blessed. Please give a nice thumbs up if you like this video, and I'll see you all again another time. Bye.